Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of CBN News Weekend. I'm George Thomas. My colleague Charlene Aaron is on assignment. Well, more allegations this week about Planned Parenthood's involvement in trafficking the body parts of aborted fetuses. The Center for Medical Progress released more videos revealing the abortion giant's leaders negotiating prices of, quote, specimens. We warn you, the video you are about to see is graphic. One of the videos, called Human Capital, features a woman who previously worked for a company called Stem Cell. The business obtains fetal tissue and organs for Planned Parenthood. In the video, a phlebotomist says she thought she was going to be just drawing blood, not dissecting body parts of aborted babies.
Stem Express is a company that hires procurement techs to draw blood and dissect dead fetuses and sell the parts to researchers. They partner with Planned Parenthood and they get part of the money because we pay them to use their facilities and they get paid from it. They do get some kind of benefit. We were asked to procure certain tissues like brain, liver, thymus, pancreas, heart, lungs, and pretty much anything on the fetus. It's basically huge trafficking of fetal tissues.
Stem Express filed a restraining order preventing CMP from releasing further undercover footage taken of their staff. Another video shows a Planned Parenthood medical director discussing aborted body parts pricing, followed by workers identifying body parts of an aborted fetus.
The state is going to be doing this for you. They're probably going to get caught.
How confident are you with your attorneys, the work that you've seen? They're building many layers so that they are making it difficult.
He's got it figured out that he knows that even if, because we talked to him in the beginning, we were like, we don't want to get called on, selling fetal parts across.
Neither do we.
You know what I mean? Like, no one wants to get
right. So how do we protect ourselves
from that?
And you feel confident that they're building those layers? And
I'm confident that our legal will make sure that we are not put in that situation.
Was that crack? Was that just the little bits of the skull?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I just want to see one leg or foot.
Planned Parenthood adamantly denies the organization profits from the sale of the tissue from aborted fetuses. Pro-life groups have responded to the recent videos. Our Charlene Aaron spoke with Lila Rose, founder of the pro-life group Live Action.
People on both sides of the political aisle right now are becoming outraged, and the best Planned Parenthood can do is just try to shut the story down.
Well, Lila, critics say that these videos should actually be ignored because no laws were broken and the videos are, quote, heavily edited. How do you respond to that?
I mean, that's an outright lie. People are doing everything they can to defend Planned Parenthood. It's very clear in their own admissions on tape that they are haggling, negotiating to sell body parts, that they're doing it for more than to break even. They even say explicitly, Dr. Deborah Nicotola, their senior medical director, says explicitly that her clinics want to break more than even. They want to do better than break even. As far as accusations about heavily edited tapes, the full footage is online. The full footage is even more damning than the short videos, the short summary videos, and anybody can watch those and view them for themselves. The case is very clear what's happening right now, and that's why people are outraged, and again, why Congress is moving to stop the federal tax funding of this incredibly corrupt abortion business.
Well, Planned Parenthood's budget is 40% taxpayer dollars. 3 senators have introduced a new bill to permanently defund Planned Parenthood. What's the difference between this time and other times similar legislation was introduced to defund or investigate the group?
It's a good question. So there has been legislation over the years, and in 2011, there was the Pence Amendment, which passed in the House of Representatives in a bipartisan vote. to stop taxpayer funding of Planned Parenthood, the biggest abortion chain. What's happening right now is a little different because I think you're going to see more bipartisan support than ever before, because you have folks even on the far left, presidential presumptive nominee Hillary Clinton for the Democrats, even Bernie Sanders, who are making comments about how they find these videos and the content disturbing, extremely wrong. People are getting riled up. So I think what's going to be different about these votes that you're going to see, not just the ones maybe this week, but the ones when Congress is back in session in September, is you're going to see more folks on both sides of the aisle trying to get this bill in front of the president.
Okay, well, there's no common ground for pro-life and pro-choice advocates. Pro-lifers see this as killing a life, but pro-choicers don't, because they don't believe that the fetus is a life. How can progress be made with this in mind, Lila?
I mean, I think that a lot more progress can be made than we may have thought in the past. For example, a person who's pro-choice, a politician who is in support of abortion as a legal protection of some kind, even though that's a false idea anyways, it's not in any way empowering to women or protecting the child. But even those who consider themselves pro-choice are very uncomfortable with the idea of selling baby body parts, and they recognize that there are federal laws against this, and not only the selling of baby body parts, but against other things that Planned Parenthood is doing illegally, like manipulating the abortion procedure in order to best deliver an intact specimen, as they say. Planned Parenthood wants to make sure that they protect the organs so they can sell them afterwards. That's illegal. So you're going to see a lot more voices. We've already seen some, even from former Senator Hillary Clinton. We're seeing them from Senator Bernie Sanders in the presidential race. We're going to see more voices who are traditionally pro-choice trying to distance themselves from the very corrupt, illegal activities at Planned Parenthood.
The videos have triggered congressional investigations and calls to end taxpayer funding for Planned Parenthood, a part of the latest sign of growing outrage over Planned Parenthood's harvesting of baby organs for profit. Thousands of women gathered in rallies across the nation Tuesday to demand an end to federal funding for Planned Parenthood.
People across this country who want to know exactly what is going on and if anything illegal is going on.
Horrified at the things that I heard about fellow OBGYNs talking so callously about ripping babies apart, but doing it in a way to preserve organs that could potentially bring money in.
The Women Betrayed rallies were held in dozens of cities. Presidential hopefuls spoke out at one of those rallies in Washington.
There comes a time in the history of nations when we will all be judged on whether or not we took a stand for life. Now is that time. This callous disregard expressed over wine and cheese should inflame and infuriate us all, and we should stop once and for all any penny of money going to Planned Parenthood.
Today is a time for action. Today, the U.S. Department of Justice should open a criminal investigation into all of those individuals. Today, the U.S. Department of Justice should open a criminal investigation into whether Planned Parenthood nationally is a criminal enterprise breaking the law.
The Senate will vote on defunding Planned Parenthood before senators head home for their August recess. The horrifying undercover videos of Planned Parenthood's organ harvesting have shocked the nation, but there are also some other unseen victims behind abortion. Earlier this year, Paul Strand met with pro-life leaders who launched an effort to focus on abortion's broad and painful impact.
These pro-life leaders gathering at the National Press Club announced a special emphasis throughout the year will be on the many, usually unpublicized ways abortion hurts.
Abortion has certainly created 56 million victims, the children, but the reverberations from it go out way beyond that.
Georgette Forney aborted a child when she was 16 and still grieves after 39 years.
It doesn't happen in this little room and you walk away and it's all gone. It's not like having a tooth pulled and you get up and you go back to work and it's no big deal. It is a trauma, it's life-changing, and not only for the woman herself, but for the people around her.
Like the daughter she eventually had, who as an 18-year-old was horrified when she first heard how her older sister had been killed.
This 8-year-old on my lap knew it wasn't okay, knew it didn't matter if it was legal or illegal. but that it had permanently impacted her life.
That little girl couldn't let go of her unborn sister, who would have been named Elizabeth.
And so she began to have a kind of a pretend relationship with Elizabeth as an 8-year-old that carried on for many years, because she had always wanted a big sister.
Silent No More's Kevin Burke found out recently from a counselor at a maximum security prison how many would-be fathers spin out of control after abortions.
90% of the inmates had experienced abortion. And in an informal poll he did, many of these men shared that it was part of their descent into crime.
Burke says their rage and anger lead to all sorts of trouble.
Destructive relationships, abusive behaviors, impulsive, risk-taking behaviors.
Janet Morana knows from painful personal experience how much would-be grandparents can be devastated.
My daughter had 2 abortions without even telling me. And she knew I was pro-life. She knew she could come to me, but somehow she felt, I don't want to disappoint Mom, and she went off and did that. And so I mourn the loss of my grandchildren.
The leader of Priests for Life says the circles of harm go beyond the family.
You have the friends who may have helped her to get an abortion, or the abortionist himself and their staff, even the pro-life advocates who try to save that life and fail. That hurts.
But longtime abortion foe Marjorie Dannenfelser says pro-choice advocates believe abortion has saved society from what the Nazis called useless eaters. Millions of unproductive young people that would have drained resources.
The thinking behind that, of course, is that kids are underbrush, and that there are certain parts of society that should be cleared out so that the rest of us can actually eat well and live with some distance between you and me.
Think about all the children that were aborted, over 50 million. They would have been working and paying into society. Maybe the government would not be shutting down, and Social Security wouldn't be going bankrupt because they would be productive citizens.
I mean, the real question is, can we afford not to have this child, given what that child is meant to do and be?
Dannenfelser believes each aborted child could have contributed something important to the world.
Because we know each of them was made for a purpose. Many of those purposes, of course, are purposes that were never filled by somebody else.
Paul Strand, CBN News, the National Press Club in Washington.
Thanks, Paul. Coming up, a mother who had an abortion and then immediately regretted it. Hear how she reversed the abortion and later gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Many times we don't get a second chance in life, but thanks to a discovery by a doctor in North Carolina, more than 80 women who had taken an abortion pill have gotten just that. The discovery gave them a second chance after they realized they wanted to keep their unborn babies after all. Heather Sells brings us that story.
Little Gabriel is alive and well thanks to his mother's instincts and a medical breakthrough that can shut down an abortion. Andrea Minikini was studying nursing when she got the news she was pregnant. Reluctantly, she and her boyfriend decided to abort their baby.
Andrea was unsettled when she came to this clinic to get an abortion, but immediately after she swallowed the pill, she regretted what she had done.
I ran out and actually started trying to throw up, but nothing would come out, nothing.
On a mission to save her baby, Andrea called several obstetricians and even went to her local emergency room. Doctors repeatedly told her there was no way out and that she would need to take the second abortion pill within 24 hours. After 2 sleepless nights, Andrea's mom discovered the abortion reversal hotline and a local doctor who said she might be able to help. The doctor found the baby's heartbeat and a break in Andrea's placenta.
The baby had almost, instead of going towards it, he had gone away from it and he had curled up in a little ball.
The doctor immediately began the reversal process. It involves flooding a woman's body with progesterone, the pregnancy hormone. It blocks the deadly effects of mifepristone, found in the abortion pill RU486.
These are hormones that essentially the woman's body has in it anyway, and we're just supplementing that.
Dr. Matt Harrison created the protocol 9 years ago when a patient came to him soon after taking the first dosage of RU486.
And she said, I will do whatever it takes to save my baby. And that was just such a powerful message coming from her. Someone who had just taken a medication to end their baby's life, realized immediately that she had done something that she didn't want to do. And I was like, you know what? I have no idea what to do. This is not something that they teach you in medical school. This is not, they don't give you an antidote to abortions.
Harrison's discovery takes advantage of a 2-day gap between the taking of the first and second abortion pills. The reversal must begin within 3 days of taking the first pill and before taking the second. So far, it has helped 87 mothers deliver healthy babies and another 74 who are expecting. But not everyone succeeds. About 40% have failed in their hope of reversing their abortion. Dr. Lewis Lipscomb has tried 4 times and says it can be tense.
It's a bit nerve-wracking because we're all on pins and needles just hoping that the next 2 or 3 weeks are going to go smoothly for her.
The question of birth defects is a tough one. So far, all the moms who have successfully gone through the process have delivered healthy children. In the meantime, they expect Planned Parenthood and other abortion supporters to push back against the life-saving technique.
They have a very powerful machine out there that will make fun of this, that will attack it, say that it's junk science, say that it's junk medicine, say that it's not FDA approved. They'll do whatever they can to try to combat it.
Father Frank Pavone, the National Director of Priests for Life, is working with Dr. Harrison to raise awareness by distributing reversal kits to healthcare workers and pro-life advocates.
The technique gives us hope. The reversal technique gives us hope that, first of all, we can say to her, it's not too late. We can save your baby.
To help them to turn the ship around and to love them, regardless of what they did yesterday, and really to help them to learn to love their baby is very exciting.
Today, little Gabriel and his mom are thriving thanks to family support and a life-saving procedure that could potentially help millions of other women reverse a life-altering decision. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Up next, meet the first person with the Ebola virus ever treated in the United States. Last year, the worst Ebola outbreak in history killed thousands of people in West Africa. One American missionary doctor was right in the middle of it, trying desperately to save lives before the deadly virus nearly took his own life. I recently spoke with Kent and Amber Brantley here in our CBN News studios. Check it out. This situation, what's happening today in Liberia, Sierra Leone, are we out of the woods yet, or are we still seeing cases of Ebola in these countries?
There are still 20 to 30 cases being diagnosed in Sierra Leone and Guinea every week. Last week there were 26 cases between those 2 countries. Liberia was declared Ebola-free in May, but at the end of June had a resurgence of cases and is now on their countdown once again to Ebola-free status.
And clearly, Amber, you see this, the world has kind of moved on a year later, but you have friends. You went back as a family in June. You got a chance to go back and thank some of those folks who took care of your husband. But I'm sure folks there are still fearful, right? Are they still afraid?
I think they've learned a lot in the year's time, and sure, it's still something to be afraid of, but they've taken great strides. We saw a big shift in our visit back in June because there were wash stations beside every public place and store and church and school, and I think the awareness has become such a higher level that that's really changed the culture there.
It's interesting. When your husband came back, there was one commentator who basically said you guys were idiotic. I mean, this was foolish. Why put yourselves in harm's way? Why go out? There's so many problems in other parts of the world. Why go to Liberia? Why put yourself in such harm's way? And your response was what?
God called us to serve people in need. To do that, you go to where the need is. And we saw a great need for basic medical care in Liberia. We went there to serve people with the compassion that Jesus has had on us. And that was really our motivation for moving there. And when the disaster of Ebola came to our area, it only heightened our sense of purpose for being there to serve people, to have compassion in the midst of this increasing need.
July 26th, this week, was when you were here in the States. Your family, you had evacuated your family. Your husband is there, in essence, on the front lines. When he called you to say, this is what the doctor has told me, that I have Ebola. I mean, you knew leaving when you left your husband behind. Did you think the possibility was high that your husband could contract this deadly virus?
I really didn't. I really thought that I trusted in his procedures and the steps that they were taking at the Ebola treatment unit, that he felt safe, and so I felt safe.
Yeah.
But we knew we weren't immune to that. Just because we're Christians didn't make us any less vulnerable than everyone else. And so it wasn't a complete shock because I knew he'd been getting sicker in the days before his diagnosis, and but it was a horrible feeling.
Going forward, this is a calling for you guys. You are called for life. This is not your typical missions outreach as you discovered early on, but this is something that you guys are passionate about doing, about going into these very difficult places, provide the physical healing, but also bring the spiritual aspect.
I don't think you can separate the two. I think we get into trouble when we start trying to compartmentalize our lives and say, this is my professional life, this is my spiritual life, this is my home life. I think we are called to live as followers of Jesus, and that ought to impact every aspect of our lives, our profession, the way we treat our family, and everything else we do in our lives.
And you don't want to miss the rest of that interview, you can watch it at cbnnews.com. We'll be back right after this. And finally this weekend, churches in Senegal, West Africa, will now have access to fresh water thanks to the support of CBN partners. Teaming up with Beersheba organization, CBN is providing 6 villages with a water tower, solar pump and panels, and a drip irrigation network. The project will benefit over 3,000 people who otherwise would have no access to fresh water, and it will provide churches with income and influence that will help them minister the gospel in their communities. Well, that is all for this hour of CBN News Weekend. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. And stay up to date with CBN News through Facebook and Twitter. We hope you will join us again next time. From all of us here in the studio and back in the control room, have a wonderful weekend, and God bless you.